Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're in the middle of the story of the Bedouin and the Caliph. So far we've read that there was a Caliph once upon a time who was known for being bountiful and generous. And people from all over the world, Persians, Greeks, Turks, they would all come to his court and no one would return empty-handed. And later on, we're going to find out that this Khalifa, this Caliph, represents the bounty of Allah. And during this time, when this Caliph lives, there's a couple, a Bedouin and his wife, who are poor. And they're so poor that they have nothing. And the wife constantly complains to her husband, we don't have anything to eat. At night, when we look at the moon, we think the moon is a loaf of bread. And we want to catch that bread and eat it. Our blanket is just the moonlight. We don't have anything. And as Maulana described it, the man believed in contentment. He believed in poverty. So he says to her, poverty is my pride, and poverty is the pride of the prophets. It's the path of the prophets. So I'm not ashamed of being poor. Why don't you agree with me? Why do you always want more and more? And then there was this long argument. So the wife again says, this is true. Poverty is pride. But that's not your level. You are not there yet. This is hypocrisy. You're saying what's not in your heart. In your heart, you also desire more wealth and more comfortable life. And there's this back and forth. So he says, no, it's you see me as greedy because you are greedy, and so on. But then finally the man threatens and says, look, if you don't listen to me and if you don't agree with me, I'm going to leave. And we believe in different things. Our ways are separate. And that's when the woman changes her approach. The wife changes her approach, and zan daramad az tariq nisti. She came through the path of non-existence, or nisti. And she cries and says, look, if I'm saying we need more, it's because of you. It's not, I don't care for myself, I care for you. All I care about in this world is you. And I'm here with you in bitter times, in sad times, in happy times. I'm your spinach, as Maulana said. You know, you can cook me in a sour broth or in a sweet broth. In sweet times, in bitter times, I'm always with you. I'm going to stay with you. And then the man also, when he saw her weep, the man also changed his approach. So he starts apologizing to her, and she starts apologizing to him, and so on. Now, as it's Maulana's style, Maulana digressed from the story, from the main story, and he said, so the man apologized and said, Kufr iman ashiq an kibriya. Infidelity and faith are both lovers of Allah. And missun nuqre, silver and copper, all of them are slaves to that elixir. So everyone is a slave to Allah. And then last session, we talked about how Pharaoh and Musa, Moses and Pharaoh, they're both servants of Allah. They're both lovers of Allah, but in different ways. So even Pharaoh, in his heart of hearts, at night when he's alone with Allah, he is a believer. Daytime, when he faces the people and the people call him God and Master, that's when he forgets. That's when the reality is covered. That's when the fitra, or the nature, is covered in dust. But otherwise, deep down he knows. Deep down, everyone knows. And deep down, everyone is in love with Allah. And yes, Maulana said, چون که بیرنگی اسیر رنگ شد، موسی با موسی در جنگ شد. When colorlessness becomes the captive of color, when instead of being colorless, people are fixated on colors, on individualities, on limitations, limited understandings, that's when one Moses fights another Moses. And you have all these fights, all these tensions, because people have limited views. But once you attain to the colorlessness that's beyond all colors and includes all colors within, then not only Moses is at peace within himself, But Moses and Pharaoh are at peace. The whole world is at peace because you know that everything in this world has a place. So that was basically what we did last time. And then yes, Maulana said نعلهای باشگون است ای سلیم نفرت فرعون میداند کلیم. Yes, it's true that outwardly Pharaoh or Pharaoh rebelled against Moses, but inwardly it was Moses who repelled Pharaoh. It was Moses who repelled Pharaoh because similar things attract each other, and dissimilar things, unlike things that are not similar, repel each other. And the message of Musa, the reality of Musa was such that it repelled the likes of Pharaoh. So yes, Maulana says نعلهای باشگون است. These are like backward horseshoes, because some people used to nail their horseshoes backwards so to mislead people, and especially thieves and bandits. They used to nail their horseshoes backwards so they would mislead those who would chase after them. So Maulana says it was the other way around. It was not Pharaoh who rebelled against Musa. It was Moses who repelled Pharaoh. So yeah, inshallah, let's start the new section. So the new section we're going to do today is سبب حرمان اشقیا از دو جهان که خسرت دنیا و الآخرة. Why is it that ashqiya, those who are unblessed, they're disappointed in both worlds, in dunya and akhirah? And as the Quran says, خسرت دنیا و الآخرة. Why is it that this happens? So Ali Jan, if you don't mind.
Just the English translation.
Just the English, please. Yep.
Yes. The reason why the unblessed are disappointed of both worlds. He has lost this life and the life to come. The dear Hakim, being firmly convinced that the sky is an egg and the earth is like its yolk. Someone asked him how this earth remains in the midst of the surrounding expanse of sky, suspended in the air like a lamp, moving neither to the bottom nor to the top. The philosopher said to him, "It remains in the air because of the attraction exerted by the sky from 6 directions. Like a vault molded of lodestone, a suspended piece of iron remains in the middle." Said the other, "How should the pure sky draw the dark earth to itself? No, it is repelling it from 6 directions, hence it remains amidst the violent winds. Then because of the repulsion exerted by the hearts of the perfect, the spirits of pharaohs remain in perdition. Therefore, through being rejected by this world and by that world, these lost ones have been left without either this or that. If you turn away your head from the servants of the Almighty, know that they are disgusted by your existence. They possess the amber when they display it. They make the straw of your existence frenzied. When they conceal their amber, they quickly make your submission rebellion. That is like the stage of animality, which is captive and subject to humanity. Note that the stage of humanity is subject to the power of the saints as the animal, O Master. Ahmad in righteousness called the whole world. His servants read, "Say, O my servants, your intellect is like the camel driver, and you're the camel. It drives you in every direction and under its bitter control. The saints are the intellect of intellect, and intellects to the end are like camels. Come now, look upon them with consideration. There is one guide and 100,000 souls. What is the guide and what the camel driver? Get an eye that may behold the sun. Lo, the world has been left nailed fast in night. Day is waiting expectantly, depending on the sun. Here is the sun hidden in a moth, a fierce lion in the fleece of a lamb. Here is an ocean hidden beneath straw. Beware, do not step on the straw with hesitancy. A feeling of hesitancy and doubt in the heart is the divine mercy in regard to the guide. Every prophet came alone into this world. He was alone and he had 100 unseen worlds within him. By his power, he enchanted the macrocosm, and he enfolded himself in a very small frame. The foolish deemed him to be lonely and weak. How is he weak who has become the king's companion? The foolish said, he's a man, nothing more. Woe to him that reckons not the end.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the verses together. So the first verse is چون حکیمک اعتقادی کرده است کاسمان بیضه زمین چون زرد است. So Maulana is saying this hakimak, right? So hakim is philosopher or sage, right? But Maulana has added a suffix ak, right? So the ak suffix in Persian can mean two things. One is dear, right? So you use it for endearment, as a term of endearment, and also for little, belittling someone. And I think in this case, actually, he's belittling the philosopher. He's saying this petty philosopher, this little philosopher, because he's not the true sage. So Nicholson has translated as dear Hakim, right? But it's this little philosopher or these petty philosophers, right? So he's talking about Ptolemy. So Ptolemy or Bathlamius in Arabic and Persian. So in his cosmology, the earth is in the middle of the sky, in the middle of the heavens, and it doesn't move. So yeah, he says Osman beyze zamin chon zard ast. It's like the sky is like the egg, and the earth is like the yolk of the egg. Now someone asks this Greek philosopher, how is it that the earth remains? How is it that it doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it doesn't fall, it doesn't rise? How is that possible? همچو قندیلی معلق در هوا نی به اسفل می رود نی بر علا. It's suspended. How is it? It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. How is that possible? Now, this philosopher, so Ptolemy, says to him, it remains in the air because of the attraction exerted by the sky from 6 directions, right? Because there is this magnetic attraction from 6 directions, right? And many of the ancient philosophers call this love, the love of the sky for the earth, right? Because of this attraction, it remains in the sky, and it doesn't rise and it doesn't fall. It remains suspended. چون ز مغناطیس قبه‌ای ریخته در میان مان داهنی آویخته. Just like gold made from مغناطیس, that's magnetite, and a piece of iron remains suspended in the middle. And there's a story about that. There's a story that there was an idol in India, in Sumanath, that was suspended in the air. And when the Muslims go there, Sultan Mahmud of Ghazna, they go there, and they're all astonished. How is this possible? This idol is suspended in the middle of the air. And at first, they think there's an invisible thread somewhere, an invisible string that's keeping this idol. But yeah, they look everywhere. There's no thread. And finally, so Biruni, who's the scientist, says, look, this building is made of magnetite, and it's, the calculations are so precise that the magnetic attraction is the same, is equal from all sides, from 6 directions, and that's how this idol is remains in the middle, suspended. So that's the theory of Ptolemy, and it's, you can see this in many philosophers' writings, ancient philosophers. Now, Maulana's answer to this is no, you're wrong. آن دگر گفت آسمان با صفا کی کشد در خود زمین تیره را. You're saying it's attraction from 6 directions? No. How is it that the pure sky, that's pure of all earthliness, pure of all attachments? So here we're entering another point of view. It's the point of view of spirituality, right? It's the point of view of ma'na. So he's saying, how is it possible that the pure sky is attracting earth? How is that imaginable? No, it's repelling it from 6 directions, right? So it's not attraction from 6 directions, it's repelling it from 6 directions. And that's why the earth is suspended. Now, why is it that Pharaoh is in perdition? Why is it that Pharaoh is misled? It's because of the repulsion exerted by the hearts of the perfect. Because the pure and the heavenly, just by their very nature, repel those who are earthly by their very nature. It's just the nature of things. So this is how these people are khasara dunya wal akhirah, because the good in this world repels them and the good in akhirah repels them. And these people are lost between, they have neither this nor that. So if you turn away your head from servants of Allah, if you turn away from the servants of Allah, what happens is they will be disgusted by you, and then they repel you, and then there's no way for you to find the path. Because they are the ones who have the amber, they are the ones who have the kahruba. And kahruba is what attracts the straw, right? The amber is what it's like a magnet for the straw. They're the ones who can make you in love. They're the ones who can make your existence frenzied. And when they conceal their amber, conceal their kahruba, what happens is your submission becomes rebellion. You become Fir'aun. Yeah, and the next page, Maulana continues to talk about awliya, saints, right? So he's saying just like the animals are subject to humans, right? But humans have a more perfect intellect. There is a more perfect intellect than you. Is comparing your, intellect is like your camel driver. So in the past, you had a caravan of camels, and then the camel driver would be leading the whole caravan. Now he's saying you have all these, you have your nafs, you have the different faculties, but your intellect is the camel driver of your existence. Ideally, at least, your aql should be in charge. Your aql should be the camel driver. And you're the camel. Your whole existence is the camel. And the camel driver leads the whole caravan towards the direction that's rational and that's intellectual. Now he's saying just like you need aql, all these aqls need aql. All these intellects need an intellect to lead them. You have aql, the intellect of the intellect. And who is the intellect of the intellect? It's awliya, it's saints. And at the forefront of them, fountainhead of them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is one guide and 100,000 souls. And interestingly, so Maulana says, Bande khud khand Ahmad dar Rashad, jumle alam ra bekhan qul ya ibad. So in the Quran it says, there's this verse, "O my servants that have transgressed against yourselves, O my servants who have transgressed against yourselves, do not despair of Allah's mercy. Do not despair of God's mercy. Because God will forgive all sins. Inna Allaha yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Inna Allaha yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a." So Allah Ta'ala forgives all sins. Don't despair. But the beginning of the ayah, the beginning of the verse is, say, "O my servants." And most of the commentators of the Quran, they say my servants means Allah's servants. But Maulana, quite unusually, he says, no, my servants means Rasulullah is speaking here. He says, my servants who have transgressed against yourself, don't despair of Allah's mercy. So the path to becoming Allah's servant is to become the servant of Rasulullah first. Rasulullah is the gateway. Rasulullah is the path. It's just like if you want to, elsewhere in the Masnavi, he says, if you want to get sunlight, you need to open the window, and that window is Rasulullah. If you want sunlight to enter your house, he's the window, he's the path. He's saying he's the guide. Get an eye that may behold the sun. So if you don't see the sun, it's your fault. It's because you don't have the eye. You don't have the eye that sees the sun. You need to get that eye, and then you'll see the sun. The whole world is in night. Jahan dar shab bebande. The whole world is nailed fast in night, is imprisoned in darkness. But they're waiting for the day to come. They're waiting for the sun to shine. And the sun is here. The sun is hidden. You don't see the sun. Why? Because the sun is hidden in human form, in a moat. So you see a moat, you think that's it. But no, it's a sun inside. You don't see the sun inside because you don't have the eye. A fierce lion in the fleece of a lamb. Again, you look at the outward, you see a lamb. But no, look at the reality. It's an ocean beneath straw. You see straw, but no, look deeper. Look beyond appearances, and then you'll see the ocean. Don't think it's just a straw and then you step on it. No, it's an ocean. So people look at the prophets, look at the Anbiya, look at the Awliya, and they see normal, ordinary human beings. Right? And they will say, what's special about these people? They eat, they drink, they walk in the marketplace, as the Quran says, they don't understand how immense these people are. They don't understand that these people are oceans, right? Because they look at the outward, and all they see is a normal human being, leading a normal human life. How is this person a saint? How is this person a wali Allah? Or how is this person a prophet? But you need to have that eye that sees the sun. So عالم کبرا به قدرت سحر کرد. They have the power to enchant the whole world, the macrocosm. کرد خود را در کهین نقشی نورد. And yet they're hidden in a small frame, in the form of a straw, little as a straw. ابلهانش فرد دیدند و ضعیف. Those who are foolish, they think these are weak, lonely people, insignificant people. But no, you don't see the real strength. The real strength is there with Allah. کی ضعیف هستند که با شخص شد حریف. He's the companion of the king. They're the companions of the king. How can they be weak? ابلهان گفتند, the foolish said, مردی بیش نیست. He's just a man. He's just a human being, nothing more. وای آنکو عاقبت اندیش نیست. But it's you who don't reckon the end. You don't look beyond appearances, beyond what superficially you see from these people. Yes, Ali.
I think that the fact that Maulana is mentioning that we should not look to superficial metrics of success and value in society is quite important. I mean, especially the line that if you see the saints and the prophets outwardly, then nothing is special. And then you see these people and you think, oh, okay, this guy, whatever, he can't be significant. He's not even driving a G-Wagon. So how can he be significant? But as Maulana says, as we read previously, that these individuals have a palace of knowledge and virtue in their dungeons, in their basement. And why should that be available to everyone? No, only the selected few who really want to go there, who really want to explore the depths of their soul and get closer to Allah. Those are the only people who are permitted. And for the rest of humanity, they're just ordinary people. It's not about the outwardly metrics of success and fame and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the eye, as Maulana says. The problem is the eye. So, and the Quran says this again and again. There are people who see only the outward aspect of this world, and they don't see the inner realities. They don't see the hidden meaning, and that's why they don't see the realities of Anbiya and Awliya. They don't see the prophets, right? Earlier on, Abu Jahl, did Abu Jahl see the prophet? No, he didn't, right? Those who had that eye to see the sun, they saw the prophet. But Abu Jahl, he was the prophet's uncle, right? And Abu Lahab, he was the prophet's uncle. They saw him every day, but did they see him? No. They saw his outward. They didn't see his reality. So you need a different eye to see that reality. Okay, so I guess we could move on. So as an example, Maulana is going to tell us the story of Salih. So the Prophet Salih and his camel, and how the people of Salih, they didn't recognize the reality of Salih, and they hamstrung the camel because حقیر و بیخصم دیدن دیده های حس صالح را. It's eyes of the hiss, the eyes of the senses. They didn't see Salih. They saw him as weak and حقیر. They belittled him. وناقه صالح را. And they also didn't see his camel. They didn't see the reality of the camel of Salih. And Maulana is going to talk about that camel. چون خواهد که حق لشکری را هلاک کند, when Allah Ta'ala wants to destroy an army, what he does is در نظر ایشان حقیر نماید خصمان را. Right? In their eyes, he will make the enemy look small, look weak. So that's a sign that Allah Ta'ala wants that army to be defeated. اگرچه غالب باشد آن خصم. But the enemy, the adversary is superior, is stronger. But because Allah Ta'ala wants to defeat these people, they don't see that. They fail to see the strength of the army of Allah. And so he was making you, that's a hadith from the Prophet, he was making you few in their eyes. It might be from the Quran, actually, sorry. That Allah Ta'ala might bring to pass a thing that was to be done. So that's in the battles of the Prophet ﷺ. The enemies, the pagans, the mushrikeen, they wouldn't see the strength of the Prophet and his army. The strength of that is Allah Ta'ala is with them and the angels are with them. Okay, so let's inshallah read this section. Somira, would you mind?
Yeah, okay, sure. Should I from the She-Camel or from the starting?
From the She-Camel, yeah.
The She-Camel of Salih was in form a camel. The bitter tribe hamstrung her in their folly. When they became her foes on account of the water, they were blind to bread and blind to water. God's She-Camel drank water from brook and cloud. They withheld God's water from God. The She-Camel of Salih became, like the bodies of righteous men, an ambush for the destruction of the wicked. That what let God's She-Camel have her portion of water has brought against that people through the ordainment of death and woe. The vengeance which is God's minister demanded from them an entire town as the blood price of a single camel. His spirit is like Salih, and his body is the She-Camel. The spirit is in union, the body in want. The Salih spirit is non-susceptible to afflictions. The blows fall on the camel, not on the essence. No one gains victory over their hearts. Harm comes to the oyster shell, not to the pearl. The Salih spirit is not capable of being hurt. The light of God is not subject to infidels. The soul attached to it the earthly body, that they might hurt and suffer tribulation, not knowing that to hurt this is to hurt him. The water in this jar is joined with the water in the river. God connected with the body in order that he might become a refuge for the whole world. Be a slave to the camel, which is the saint's body, that you may become the fellow servant of the Salih spirit. Salih said, inasmuch as you have shown this envy, after 3 days the punishment will arrive from God. After 3 more days there will come from the taker of life a calamity that has 3 signs. The color of all your faces will be changed, colors different to look at. On the first day your faces will be like saffron. On the second your faces will be red like argawan. On the third all your faces will become black. After that the vengeance of God will arrive. If you desire from me the sign of this threatened chastisement, the She-Camel's foal has run towards the mountains. If you catch him, there is help, else the bird of help has surely escaped from the snare. None was able to overtake the foal. He went into the mountains and vanished. Saleh said, you see, the destiny has been ratified and has beheaded the phantom of your hope. What is the She-Camel's foal? His heart, which you may bring back to its place by means of well-doing and piety. If his heart comes back, you are saved from that divine punishment. Otherwise, you are despairing and biting your forearms in remorse. When they heard this dark threat, they cast down their eyes and waited for it. On the first day, they saw their faces yellow. From despair, they were sighing heavily. On the second day, their faces all became red. The time for hope and repentance was lost. On the third day, all their faces became black. The prediction of Salih came true without dispute. When they were all cast away in despair, they fell on their knees like camels. Gabriel, the trusted, brought in the Quran the description of this kneeling, Jathimin. Kneel at the time when they are teaching you and bidding you dread such a kneeling as this. They were waiting for the stroke of vengeance. They were waiting for the stroke of vengeance. The vengeance came and annihilated this town. Saleh went from his solitude to the town. He beheld the town amid smoke and heat. He heard wailing from their limbs. The lamentation was plain, those who uttered it invisible. He heard wailings from their bones, tears of blood from their spirits like hailstones. Saleh heard that and set to weeping. He began to lament for them that made lamentation. He said, O people that lived in vanity, and on account of you I wept before God. God said, have patience with their iniquity. Give them counsel, not much remains of their period. I said, counsel is barred by ill treatment. The milk of counsel gushes forth from love and joy. Much ill treatment have they bestowed on me. The milk of counsel is curdled in my veins. God said to me, I will give you a boon. I will lay a plaster on those wounds. God made my heart clear as the sky. He swept your oppression out of my mind. I went once more to admonition. I spoke parables and words as sugar. I produced fresh milk from the sugar. I mingled milk and honey with my words. In you, those words became like poison, because you are filled with poison from root and foundation. How should I be grieved that grief is overthrown? Your grief, O obstinate people. Does anyone lament the death of grief? Does anyone tear out his hair when the sore on his head is removed? He turned to himself and said, O mourner, those folk are not worth your mourning. Recite correctly. Do not regard my misquotation. Say, how shall I be grieved for an unjust people? Again he felt a weeping in his eye and heart, and uncaused compassion shone forth in him. He was raining drops of water, and he had become distraught, an uncaused drop from the ocean of bounty. His intellect was saying, why this weeping? Ought one to weep for such scoffers? Tell me, what are you weeping for? For their fraud? For the host of their ill-shod hatreds? For the murky hearts full of rust? For their venomous snake-like tongues? For their dog-like breath and teeth? For their mouths and eyes teeming with scorpions? For their wrangling and sneering and scoffing? Give thanks, since God has imprisoned them. Their hands are perverse, their feet perverse, their eyes perverse, their love perverse, their peace perverse, their anger perverse. For the sake of imitation and standards of tradition, they set their feet trample on the camels of reason, the venerable guide. They were not eager for a guide. They all had become an old donkey. From paying hypocritical observance to each other's eyes and ears, God brought the worshippers from paradise, that he might show unto them the nurslings of hellfire.
Thank you so much, John. It was a long passage in your first day, 4 pages. Okay, so it's the story of Salih that's in the Quran, but Maulana has his own mystical interpretation of the story, right? So he says, ناقه صالح به صورت بود شتر. It was outwardly a camel. And that bitter tribe on قوم مر, those people who were bitter, they hamstrung her because they didn't recognize the reality of this camel. It's only outwardly a camel. از برای آب چون خصمش شدن. Because of water, they became her enemies, the camels, she-camels enemies, right? And it's in the traditions and it's in the Quran, right? ناقة الله وسقياها. So Salih put a condition, and the condition was one day the stream or the river belonged to the camel, the next day to the tribe. So it was, they would rotate like that. And because of this, they became enemies to that camel. And they didn't realize true water. What is true water? What is true bread? Because the only thing that they saw was this physical water. That's the only thing they were concerned about. So they were non-kur or ab-kur, blind to bread and blind to water, blind to the real bread. That's the heavenly bread, and real water. That's the heavenly water. But these people were blind. So آب حق را داشتند از حق طریق. They withheld God's water from God's camel, from God, right? So in the Quran, this camel is described ناقة Allah, the camel of Allah, right? So when you withhold water from God, how is that possible? You withhold water from the servants of Allah. You don't feed the servants of Allah, the pure servants of Allah. That's just like withholding water from Allah in a sense, right? When you don't feed Allah's servants. The she-camel of Salih, and you have this in the hadith as well, right? On the day of resurrection, Allah Ta'ala says, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. And the believer says, the people will say, how is that possible? You're Allah. How can we feed you? And Allah Ta'ala will say, my servant so-and-so was hungry and you didn't feed him, right? If you had fed my servant, you would have found me there. You would have seen me there. So, ناقه صالح چو جسم صالحان. So the she-camel of Salih is the body of the saints and the body of the righteous people, right? So Salih himself is the spirit, but the camel is the body. So you can only harm the body. You can't harm the spirit. So as Maulana says, ruh hamchon saleho tan naqas. The spirit of the saints and the spirit of the righteous people is like Salih. And the body is the she-camel. So the body of awliya. Ruh andar waslu tan dar faqas. The spirit is there. The spirit is already in heaven. It's already in union. It's the body that's in want. Ruh salih qabil afat nist. There's no way you can harm the spirit of Salih. There's no way you can harm the spirit of our anbiya and awliya. It's not possible, right? Because the spirit is already there with Allah. The blows fall on the camel, not on the essence. The blows fall on the camel, on the body of these people. کس نیابد بر دل ایشان ظفر بر صدف آمد ضرر نی بر گوهر. You can harm the oyster shell, the outward, but not the pearl inside, the reality inside. روح صالح قابل آزار نیست. The spirit of Salih is not capable of being hurt. نور یزدان سقبه کفار نیست. How can you vanquish the light of Allah? Not possible. حق از آن پیوست با جسمی نهان تاش آزارند و بینند امتحان. But Allah Ta'ala became attached to this body of righteous people so that these people will hurt him and then they will find tribulation. So it's a tribulation for people to see if these people can recognize Allah Ta'ala in these forms. بیخبر کازار این آزار اوست. When you harm righteous people, you're harming Allah. Not harming Allah in the sense that, Allah Ta'ala is with these people. So you can't worship Allah and serve Allah unless you serve these people and unless you're kind to these people. آب این خم متصل با آب جوست. So if you're an enemy of Allah Ta'ala's saints, you're an enemy of Allah, because the water of this jar is joined with the water in the sea. ناقه جسم ولی را بنده باش تا شوی با روح صالح خواجه تاش. If you want to be a companion of Salih, if you want to find the spirit of Salih in you, you need to be a slave to the camel of Salih, and that's the body of the saints and the body of the righteous. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's all about seeing the inward, right? And again, Maulana is saying the way to see that is, if you want to find that spirit of Salih, you need to serve. That's the first step. Serve the awliya outwardly. Yeah, outward is the first step. Yeah. and then you find the inner reality. Yeah. So yeah, the form is also important in a sense, right? Because it starts with outward service, right? Be a slave to the camel. So the camel is the body. Serve these righteous people outwardly, and then the result is you find that nur of Salih, the light within you. So yeah, the next page is the story, right? The story of Salih. So after the camel was hamstrung, Salih said to these people, "You have committed this outrageous act, and there will be punishment. There will be punishment from Allah. After 3 days." So you have 3 days, and then a calamity will come. So you have 3 days to do something, 3 days to repent, right? And these people are heedless. So the first day, they see all these signs, like the colors of their faces change. So the first day, their faces turn yellow, like saffron. Second day, their faces turn red. Third day, it becomes black. And then Salih says, now the vengeance of Allah is coming. The calamity that I told you is coming. But still there is chance, right? There is room for tawbah. So go and find, as a proof of love and devotion. Yeah, exactly. Sunnah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Sunnah is the outward service. Yeah, exactly. Go to it. Yeah. Elsewhere in the Maulana says, some people say that, love is enough, but love is expressed outwardly, right? When you love someone, you dress well, you dress your best for them. You send you send beautiful letters, beautiful handwriting, right? You can't say I love and then do nothing outwardly. That's not true love. So love is also expressed outwardly.
You imitate. Love is imitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Profiling the sunnah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's following the footsteps, yeah, and following, being. There's also the inner sunnah of being with the Prophet. So yeah, then he says the fall of this camel has run towards the mountains. Go and catch the fall. If you're able to catch the fall, it means there's still room. There's still a chance for you to be saved. And they're not able, right? It's too late. And offspring of the camel is also disappears. And then Salih says, now the destiny has been decreed. Surat Umid Ragadan. So it's too late, right? It's too late. So and then Maulana says that what is the camel's fall in the story? It's the heart. It's the heart of these awliya. Now that you have harmed them, go and apologize. Go and seek their hearts, right? Do some well-doing, do piety, right? Ihsan bir. If you do that, then you will be saved. You'll be saved from the punishment. Otherwise, then you'll be biting your forearms, right? So there's remorse. But these people, the people of Salih, didn't do that. They didn't do that, and all of that which Salih had told them happened. So first day, their faces turned yellow, second day red, third day black, and ultimately they were in despair. They knelt down. And Maulana says, you should have kneeled down before. Kneel at the time when they're teaching you. And then it will save you from kneeling like this. So the next 2 pages are Salih after this going back to the town, and he sees all these dead bodies and bones after the divine punishment, and he's having this inner conversation with himself, right? So first of all, he's talking with these people. He says, you lived in a qawmi bibatil ziste. You lived in vanity, and for you I wept before Allah. I wept before Allah. I gave you advice, and that advice was sugar, but because your souls were so mixed with poison, you were not able to taste that sugar. You were not able to taste that sweetness. Because I loved you so much, and because of my love for you, this milk of counsel comes from my love. But because of your ill treatment, that milk is now frozen. It's now dried. And yeah, so he says, I fresh milk from sugar, but because your nature was poison, you were filled with poison inwardly, you could not appreciate the sweetness of my message. And what should I do now? So on the one hand, he says to himself, should I grieve for you? No, because you're grief. You don't grieve when grief departs. When grief is overthrown, you don't grieve. Does one lament the death of grief? So why should I mourn for you? So this is from the Quran again. How shall I be grieved for an unjust people? But then again, he found himself weeping. He found his eye and his heart weeping. Rahmati bi illati dar ghaybat haft, an uncaused compassion. So this is from Allah and Anbiya, right? A rahmat that has no cause, right? A person who doesn't deserve to be loved, but still there is that love, right? And he was, Salih was weeping and crying, and he was bewildered. Why? The drop of tears that had no cause. It had come from the ocean of Allah Ta'ala's bounty. The intellect was saying, why? Why this weeping? There's no point in the weeping, right? These people deserved the punishment. Why are you weeping? Their fraud, you've seen their hatred, you've seen the rust, you've seen the enmity, you've seen their tongues, what they did. You've seen all of that. So دستشان کج، پایشان کج، چشم کج. Their hands are perverse, their feet perverse, their eyes perverse. So what is this sadness? But yeah, as Maulana said, it's a sadness without cause, right? It's a sadness because a person who is Rahim is Rahim without cause, right? It's his nature to be merciful and loving, even to those who don't deserve it. So these people, as payat taqlid or ma'qulat al-naql, because of imitation, because of just following traditions of their forefathers, right? They neglected the beauty of aql, the beauty of intellection, the beauty of reason, right? And the beauty of the guide, the pir. Pir kharni, they were not eager for a guide. So pir khar is someone who's eager for a guide. And Maulana is playing on the words here. Because they were not pir khar, eager for a guide, for a pir, they became pir khar. They became an old donkey, right? So what does an old donkey do? Just follows others, imitation, right? Imitation in the negative sense, in the sense of taqlid, right? Just seeing what the society is doing and just following what everyone else is doing. And yeah, that's actually a characteristic of the people of Salih, right? So in the tafsir, they say that they, in the Quran it says they hamstrung her, they hamstrung the camel. Only one of them did. Only one person from the people of Salih did. But everyone else was just conforming to that society. No one was brave enough to go against the flow. So because of riyaya chashm gush, what other people will say, hypocritical observance to each other's eyes and ears, right? So so there were few people in that community who harmed the camel of Salih, but everyone else was complacent. Everyone else was going along with what they were saying. They didn't disagree. They didn't object. So they became an old donkey, as Maulana says. They were not eager for a guide. So as Behisht Avard Yazdan Bardagan, so Allah Ta'ala brings people from paradise to show them, to show this contrast of heaven and hell, right? And the next section, which we're going to read next week, is all about this two seas, which between them there's a barrier, right? So there is Ahl Nar and Ahl Nur, the people of fire and the people of light. So yeah, any thoughts, comments, reflections? Yeah, exactly. Love opens eyes and enables us to see beyond form and social customs. Yeah, exactly. Just like in the Nayname, love is the medicine to our pride. Love is the medicine to our greed. It's love that's the only remedy. It's love that's the only cure.
I love the self-talk when he's saying, "Why am I grieving?" And then he's still grieving. First he says, "I cried for you," and then it's the rahmah of those people who are righteous. They are forever forgiving and merciful to those, no matter how they've been harmed. It's like our Prophet ﷺ, no matter what happened, he would still pray for those, even when they had harmed him. And
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's, they say about the Prophet ﷺ, they broke their teeth in Uhud, and they would put thorns on his path, and they would throw stones at him, and then he would pray, "Ya Allah, forgive these people. They don't know what they're doing."